Anthony Hamilton sacrificed everything so that Lewis could pursue his dream of being an F1 driver. But in 2010, Lewis fired him as his manager. So what happened between the two? And even though it seems that Lewis was able to mend his relationship with his heartbroken dad, why did he recently change his last name to his mum's? Stick around to find out. First, let's find out a bit more about Anthony. His origins are from Grenada in the West Indies. However, he was born in the United Kingdom. He had his first son, Lewis Hamilton, from his first wife, Carmen La Balestière. Anthony has done what a passionate and loving father would do for his children. He switched to a lot of jobs just so that he could provide the best for his son's demands and wishes. According to reports, the senior Hamilton was working as an IT manager, but as it didn't help him make much money, he had to switch to becoming a contractor so that he could keep his son's love for racing alive and thriving. He worked 4 separate jobs to support his son, and it did all pay off when Lewis won several karting championships in the UK, and then eventually signed with McLaren, who funded his racing career. No doubt that it was Anthony Hamilton's tireless determination that led Lewis Hamilton to become the world-renowned Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton Sr. bought his son his first remote-controlled car when he was 6 years old only, and then at the age of 7, Lewis got his first go-kart for Christmas, and by the time he was 13, he joined the McLaren Young Driver program. This made him the youngest driver to be contracted by an F1 team. Lewis acknowledges how important his dad was to him in achieving greatness in the world of F1. It started out as a hobby, something for me and my dad to go together, something we were both interested in. At one point, my dad had 4 jobs just to keep us karting. At night, after work, he'd be in the garage working on the kart. I mean, he gave up everything for me. But it was his support that made me feel like I could do anything. He taught me that if you want something, you need to go after it and never give up. I always remember driving around Ride House. My dad was the only father that would go out on the track. He would go and stand where he was braking, and he would move several meters down and say, "This is where you have to brake." No other father was doing that, so I'd go around and I'd try and brake at that point, and I'd spin off and crash, and eventually I could do it. And that's been at the core of I've always been known as a late breaker. After all of his commitment and hard work, he also became his son's manager, which obviously is a hectic job. He helped him focus on his goals and helped him to overcome the hurdles in his journey of becoming the best in the racing world. Hamilton Sr. proved to be sincere and committed to his son's cause. In 2006, when Lewis had a clash with Martin White-Marsh, in charge of McLaren's driver development program, Anthony stood like a rock with him. The clash happened because McLaren wanted Lewis to spend 1 more year in Formula 3. However, Anthony was determined for his son to move up to GP2. This could have backfired as Lewis was withdrawn from the contract with the Marsh. However, as we know, the story is not one of failure, as Lewis managed to win the F3 title before making it to back-to-back championships and securing the GP2 title in 2006. After winning this title, destiny turned out to be very kind to him, as Lewis secured a drive with the McLaren Formula 1 team for the year 2007. And throughout this process, Anthony Hamilton stood next to his son. Even though Anthony was Lewis's manager in his initial F1 days, he never earned anything from his son. Along with that, he never accepted any kind of gifts from his son either. In one of his interviews, he said, "Some of us do it so that our kids have better opportunities than we had." And he really did give up a lot just so his son could fulfill his dreams. He also stated that for him, all he needed was his son's gratitude after winning the 2008 title. He said he needed this for his 18 years of blood, sweat, and tears. The 2008 win was an emotional ride for the father and the son, as they saw their dream of ruling the racing world come into existence. Lewis won the motor's highest racing prize. However, there came trouble in paradise soon after that. In 2010, the father-son duo decided to split, and Anthony left his manager's seat. In fact, it was Lewis that decided that his dad was no longer the right person for the job, and instead decided to sign with a larger management firm. At this event, Lewis said that dad would be missed. Speaking more about it, he shared that his dad had other things to focus on, and he didn't want him to be his manager anymore. In response to this, Anthony shared his feelings. He said that he was shocked and heartbroken. It was no less than a nightmare. According to Anthony, it felt like something had died. He was shocked by what his son had said. Anthony stated that when Lewis said he no longer wanted him as his manager, it came out of the blue because they hadn't fallen out. In fact, in 2013, when Anthony Hamilton sued Paul di Resta for wrongful dismissal, he was asked about the money or the salary that he received from his son. But surprisingly enough, he stated that he never asked for a penny from Lewis, which ultimately meant that he never received any money from his son, even after he was serving as his manager for so long. But later, in another hearing, he changed his stance. He stated that he was actually paid around £3 million. According to Anthony, he'd forgotten about the agreement his company had with Lewis's company, and Lewis kept up with the agreement, paying $500,000 every year up until 2012. But his statement before he confirmed getting the money had caused major controversy. He'd even stated that he always wanted to make his own company successful and well established, rather than relying on his son. He was not interested in making Hamilton's F1 career for himself. According to him, he isn't the kind of father who wishes to rely on his son's money, and he definitely doesn't intend to do that ever. But there was another thing that made people believe that Anthony might have lied about it intentionally. According to some reports, in 2008, Hamilton Sr., who was living in Tywyn, had spent a whopping £3 million on his house. When asked about it, he mentioned that he took out a mortgage to cover the price, and he never used any cash payment. But fans believe that it was this gift money that he denied he ever got from his son that he used on this house. This rift between the two also affected Lewis's performance in his next few races. We saw him losing 4 consecutive titles between 2010 to 2013 to Sebastian Vettel. Fast forward to 2022, and Lewis's personal life made the headlines again when the F1 racer announced that he'd be taking on his mother's last name. But why did all of this happen? And what does it mean about his relationship with his dad? To uncover this, we need to look back at Lewis's childhood. He was only 2 at the time his parents Anthony Hamilton and Carmen Labalistier parted ways. Lewis was brought up by his mother until he was 12 years old, along with his half-sisters Nicola and Samantha. Afterwards, he moved to live with his father Anthony, who also remarried a woman named Linda. They had a son Nicholas, who is a half-brother to Lewis. Nicholas is also a racing driver who's competed in the British Touring Car Championship. It's also a fact that Carmen, who's Lewis's biological mother, was not regular at his son's racing competitions. However, she's always been there for the big moments. His mother once shared her views on her split with Anthony. She said that the only good thing that came out of their marriage was Lewis. Anthony and I would have been unhappy in this marriage if we were still together, but happily we're not, and Lewis is better that way. She also said that Anthony always wanted to be somebody and do something big, and he has been successful in achieving that. But I wanted something different from life. I wanted a quiet life, which was the barrier in our relationship. I couldn't see myself in that hectic, tiresome and busy lifestyle. It was just not for me. Even though Lewis's mother and father had their rifts, his mother still praised Anthony by saying if not for him, it wouldn't have been possible to see her son achieve all the big things in life. She tends to confess that his father was the only one who worked day and night. This shows that Anthony has definitely been a highlight of Lewis's life and success. He is what he is because of his father's efforts. One more thing that might catch your interest about Hamilton's family. Just recently, at the 2022 Dubai Expo, Lewis Hamilton shared his wish to win the 8th title. He said, "It would mean the world to my family if I win an 8th title." Okay, well that's a given. Who wouldn't want to have the titles to prove they are F1's greatest of all time? However, he then went on to say that he would like to put his mum's last name to his name. This was a bit shocking for the audience, as they suspected a new clash in the Hamilton family. He supported his thoughts by saying he didn't understand the point of removing a woman's last name after marriage. He said he was proud of his family name, Hamilton, but would like his mum and himself to use Labalastier. So, whilst the world thought there was a new rift in the Hamilton family, this was another case of Hamilton using his high profile to take a stance and change societal norms. In fact, it would seem that Hamilton and his dad have overcome their differences, as they can be seen spending quality time together, from meditating in the morning to cruising around. It looks like this father-son duo truly has an incredible bond built over years of sacrifice.